Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Between a Pot and a Hard Place. I'm Stephen Colton,
And I am Chris Kirkpatrick.
and it's Monday.
It
Yay!
is.
Yeah, yesterday, yeah.
It
Oh,
feels a little weird not doing it on Sunday.
it kind of does. I had not a rough day yesterday, but there was a lot going on, and I was like, the eating thing was like, I was getting close to, it'd be easier just to do it tomorrow. So
Yeah.
it worked out. I mean,
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize that you work a full day on Sunday, and then
yeah,
you literally swoop in to do the podcast.
yeah, and So on my time, I was gonna say time frame that my time zone. I was like, is time zone the right word? I haven't said that out loud in so long it sounded off. I'm like, time zone? Time zone? Is that correct? But no, for me, we usually go live at 8 p.m. and I get
Right.
off work at 6 p.m. That's 2 hours. It's about a 20-minute or so drive home. Sometimes I try to go to buy groceries and things on Saturdays or before. And sometimes I don't have anything at home. So I hit rush to eat something real quick. I'm like, I got to stop and do this. And then sometimes
Right.
I didn't get gas. And then, so sometimes I'm cutting it close. I'll get home at like 7:15 or something, and it's like, and just trying to scramble to get everything together. But I mean, it worked out, I think. So for the first time, and we're not going to know unless somebody was able to go check it on Twitter, which I might open the browser and look. Well, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to mess up the browser I already have set up for something. We're going to share a little bit of a hello, I guess, from Jordan Elsass, who it's actually a cameo to some other fan. But he talks about like leaving Superman and Lois. Breaking news, everybody. He's leaving. He's not going to be back for Superman and Lois.
And you know what's crazy is that even before this video and everything else, we had slotted for Jordan to be with us on last night's episode.
It would have been last night, yeah.
Yeah, he had agreed to join us and really sort of talk about what happened during season 2. And we had gotten messaged on our Twitter DM. He had basically stated that there was an emergency going on and that he was going to have to cancel. And so wasn't until maybe a couple of days after that I had heard about all of the stuff that's been going on. He goes into it in the video, but we felt like this was big for us considering how big of fans we are of him in the show. So
like, and he felt so bad when he had to cancel. He was like, look, guys, and I totally understand.
Yeah.
Like a lot was going on and I've been there, maybe not as severely as he has, but a lot of the times if you've noticed, I'm sure people notice because there's probably not going to be too many watching tonight live because we shifted the scheduling.
Yeah.
A lot of that has to do with me, and I go through the similar things. So it's like I get to the point where on a Sunday, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is such a crazy day. And then I get home and I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm like totally not mentally prepared for anything. I have put in a request for Sundays off. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with that. But we'll see. But yeah, a lot of that has to do, and it's not just being like, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to do this. It's, I don't know, certain things pop up and frustrations, and then it all boils down. And it's so I 100% understand where he's coming from. I felt bad. I almost feel like he told us before he told Warner Brothers. Probably not, because he wouldn't be running around telling people before. And to be fair, he didn't tell us he was leaving the show. That's why it was so shocking to me. He's just said, I'm dealing with some things. I can't make it. And I thought, oh no. And he didn't really go into detail about what his, which I'm not saying he owed us any explanation at all. A simple, I can't do it, sorry, would have been perfectly fine. Come to find out like the next day and the days after that, oh my gosh, he's dealing with some mental health issues. And which he talked about that a little bit when he was on the show. I want to say it was almost a year ago, but not quite, because it was in between season 1 and 2. But I believe they had already started filming season 2 when he talked to us. So a little less than a year ago. And he'd mentioned a little bit about it then. But yeah, it was kind of a shock. I was convincing myself, or trying to convince myself, that, oh, no, he'll take a break and they'll postpone filming. And then, because apparently filming is going to happen very soon if it hasn't already.
Right.
They were already in Vancouver, I believe, to start, pre-production or whatever.
My understanding was that there was a date where he had to return to work in Vancouver, and that date came and went, and he didn't report to work.
Right, and he did contacted them. He didn't just no show. He did, told
Right.
them, hey, look, and they were cool with it. Now I don't know the details of his deal, what kind of contractual obligations or anything like that. I would imagine it's like a year by year basis. But he probably already signed off. But he probably, who wouldn't accommodate that? It's like, look, I'm not gonna be good, so you're gonna fire me anyway if I'm not there. I just can't. And they were good enough. I mean, I don't want to pretend like I know the conversation. We don't know how it went, but it's good that it wasn't some like hateful animosity and some kind of like, oh, I don't like the way Superman told his. It wasn't any kind of inappropriate thing or
No, what I
some
think in the
scandalous
I
thing.
think in the video he kind of goes into that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we can go ahead and play those now.
Yeah.
There might be some kind of weird lag or some sort of technical issues. We're just going to share the screen from Twitter, and it's not very long. I think the first video is like 2 minutes or less, and the second one's a few minutes. It's not that long. And so Jordan is on our show this week, after all.
One way or another.
Yeah, we delivered. I'm glad we didn't heavily promote that. I kind of forgot to tweet it out and talk about it and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, good. Because now we don't, well, at least I don't look like a jerk because I didn't tell who. I'm kind of glad he canceled. Not glad, but like, I'm glad I didn't look like a fool, which I kind of do because I just mentioned that. I could have not said that and no one would have known. Now they're like, you forgot. Okay, so let's check this out. And
right. Let's do this.
We're going to play these clips here from Jordan.
Appreciate you. And I'm sorry if that is what you meant and you didn't want to, then, just let me know. I'll DM you and, we can chat a little bit there. I'm not on my phone too much, and I kind of purposefully try not to be on my phone too much. But, I definitely I'm glad that made your week, man. And I really hope you're doing well, dude. You seem like a great guy as well. And I appreciate you being on my corner, dude. Like, it's been a tough few weeks, as you might imagine, everything going on with the show. It's been a tough few weeks. So I really appreciate you rooting for me like that, being on my corner. I hope you're doing well, man. Take it easy. And, it's sad. It's a real shame. I know that I was pumped for season 3 for certain, but what are you going to do? Anyways, but yeah, dude, just like mental health is definitely 100% priority. There's no question that is priority. It's pinnacle. It's got to take precedence. And dude, mine has been last couple of years. It's been kind of, it's been rough. So I definitely, I need some time to myself. I think that I may not even, I'm still debating whether or not I'm even going to act for a while. I may not. I may kind of go in a different direction. And, I know that that's definitely going to be disappointing to some people, not even just like fans and, but just like people in my close circle. I think that could be disappointing to some people, and they may not say they're disappointed. We support you in whatever you do, but in reality, I think that I have a lot of people that got my back that were really rooting for me, and to see me kind of start over and maybe that were really rooting for me, and to see me kind of start over and maybe try something new, I think is going to shock some people, and I think it's probably the most shocking to me. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's going to be not shocking, like, wow, surprised, but like a shock. You feel me? Like, going into like a new field and really starting from scratch, because I never really did anything else, man. I started acting when I was like 12, and then, I didn't really do. That's it. That's all I've ever done, really. So going in a whole new direction would be really interesting. But I think it could be well worth it. Anyways, Jake, dude, I hope you're having a good one. And I hope that wasn't just me rambling for no reason. And you're like, this guy need to shut the hell up. But yeah, man, just take it easy and have a fantastic week. Back there.
All right. I gotta close that window now. Okay, good. Because it started replaying, and I'm like, okay, so yeah, we're back.
Yeah.
Everything's good.
I mean, I feel like
that worked out pretty well.
It worked out great. Again, I feel like, we could talk about the reasons why he said about, why he's leaving and everything else, but it's better to kind of hear it in his own words.
Right.
So I think that
he didn't get too personal. He didn't get too specific, which it's not no one else's business, honestly. If he felt like he wanted to share that, he would share it. I'm still hopeful that he'll come on the show soon. But I understand he didn't take that time off. He mentioned maybe going into a whole different territory. Maybe not even go back to acting. Rumor has it he wants to get into podcasting, and he knows 2 guys that do that already.
I mean, we could give him the hookup.
So yeah, he could maybe be like the 3rd guy on this show. How cool would that be?
It would be a pretty epic 3-way.
Yeah, but in a different way, not
podcasting.
Yeah, digital. Podcasting. I was when we were sharing that video, and then I was sharing the screen for Twitter. I was like, okay, my entire computer screen. I was gonna full screen it, but I was like, I'll just leave it. I don't want any kind of glitches.
Right.
I was looking at the top. I'm like, do I have any inappropriate shortcuts that will show? I'm like, oh no, did I close that one website from last night? No.
Do you remember that when we had, it was the guy from Stargirl, and we had done the interview, and it was back when we were using Zoom, and I had something like, something 420 on mine.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah, it was Eric Goins, I believe.
Yeah, Eric Goins. I had not realized that I had changed my my name on there, to something marijuana related.
That was funny though.
I know. So I think you're good to go.
He knows himself and do self-care. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why if you all of a sudden don't see an episode of our show, it's usually something like that. I mean, it's not always in that same kind of area, but sometimes it's just like, oh, I don't have time. But I'm trying to be more consistent with it. I'm sticking to the 8 o'clock, 5 o'clock time frame. Even if we do it on a Wednesday, I'm like, it's going to be 8 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Like, I don't want to change. I want to keep something 100% consistent. I don't want to like, oh, well, next week we're going to do it at 3:15. And then next week we're going to do it at 6. Like, I want to try to get back on a track and keep things moving.
I think what I'm glad about in this whole thing is that when celebrities come out and they say that I'm dealing with mental illness, I'm really struggling here. I'm leaving a job that I love because I just can't handle it. And I've been struggling for years. Number one, I think it really kind of humanizes them a little bit, right? Yeah. We have this tendency to put, celebrities on these pedestals, and when we realize that they're normal human beings with struggles and challenges, just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It does make them, relatable. I'm so sad though that he's going through that.
Yeah.
It seems to me that one of the issues specifically that he's dealing with is the kind of the life of being an actor.
Yeah, I can imagine that, because if you already have these issues, it's hard to deal with on a day-to-day basis, even with a normal like 9-to-5 type job. And even if you're not working, like that depression sits in, and like certain things can creep up. And it's you can understand it to a degree if you know someone dealing with it, but you really don't fully understand it till you kind of go through it at least a little bit. I know there's people out there that have it way worse than I do, and there's some people that have it. We all deal with anxieties and different things, but it can be just, you can seem okay, and then inside you're just like, if I'm not just sitting here watching a movie for like 7 days straight, then I'm not okay.
Right.
It's just something to like keep you anchored, I guess, keep you centered so that you don't lose your mind. That, at least for me.
Right.
I go out and buy I haven't been buying a lot of stuff lately, but real quick, I don't want to get off the subject, but like I just wanted to share I bought an action figure, a wrestling action figure, about a week ago, $20. And we're gonna see right here. This is what it sold for.
No way.
Yeah. Well, I just gave out this guy's eBay ID, so his name. So sorry about that. I should have thought about that, but it's public. If you go to eBay, you'll eventually see each other's names. It's not like his address is in there. But yeah, and that thing went for $265.
That's crazy.
So, sorry, I had my TV on in the background with subtitles. I'm not watching it, but I'm like, what's this? I'm just trying to turn everything off because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do that anyway. Initially, I thought like I can watch my TV when I'm not talking, but that's too distracting. Turn it up. But anyway, yeah, it blew my mind, and I knew it was a rare thing because it was a 1 of 5,000, and so that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, I was feeling kind of down, like money issues, different things, and I just go into a Target to buy some grocery items, and then I just, no matter if I have nothing in my pocket but lint, I still look at toys. Because I see a toy, I'm like, that would be really cool. And just for that moment, I'm like, and then I leave the parking lot and I'm like, life again. But still, and I see this thing and it says red sticker 1 of 5,000. I'm like, what? I've never found one of these in person before, ever. So I'm like, didn't think of how much money I had. I knew it would sell. I thought maybe 100. I got really lucky and also very unlucky at the same time. When I bought it, I got home and immediately checked eBay. $500, $600, $700 these things were selling for. I'm like, really? Because they had just came out and there weren't that many online. Posted it, listed it, all that. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get $600, and it closed out at like $265, whatever. And apparently, in those few days, people started finding them and listing them, and because I don't think anybody that bought one wanted to keep it. They just flip.
They wanted to flip it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm generally not greedy. I even sent Dan a message because we had him on here last show about collecting and scalpers and how, that's how he and I connected with these deals. And he didn't scalp me on these turtle figures. He actually cut me a deal. I got them for an even better deal than I would have buying them in store myself. And I sent him a message. I told him about the figure. I was like, am I an asshole if I sell this for that much? He's like, no. I mean, if you go out and buy 7 and do that, then yeah, maybe. But if you're just doing it for the 1, that's the going rate. I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm like, fair enough.
Yeah.
So I did. And then I also got, today I picked this up. It's a Lego Lamborghini.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
It was 1997, but I paid with card at a self-check, and I found 97 cents in the little change thing, so it's only $19.
Oh, okay.
So that's a good thing. So I just wanted to mention those things. That kind of stuff is what gets me kind of out of that funk. Just little things like reminiscing. I've bought several DVDs. I got these like a week or two ago. Ace Ventura, both films, and then the 3 Austin Powers movies.
Yeah.
$5 each.
Yeah, baby.
And I haven't watched Austin Powers. I did go and watch. Well, I've seen Austin Powers before. I think Goldmember is one of my favorites, just because, like, spoilers, we find out Dr. Evil's his brother,
right?
Dougie Powers, and it's just hilarious. You see little mini Austin running around, and it's hilarious. I did start watching Ace Ventura, the first one.
Okay,
but
yeah. I will say that Austin Powers was one of those movies that we had like stuck in our DVD player, and it just played on loop. Like, we never stopped it. It just kept playing all the time. We've really loved those movies.
I like the first one and the third one are the best. I mean, the second one's good. It's just like, okay, you're doing this again. The whole getting like frozen and thawed out. It's like a Captain America vibe. Of course, we didn't have the Captain America movie back then, but the idea now, looking back, it's like, oh. And of course, it was a huge parody of James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
But it was still really cool. And I remember so many things. Like, my uncle, he used to work at I don't even know what the place did. It's this like factory warehouse place, right? And forklifts and all that kind of thing. And he would train people on forklifts. And he told me that whenever like there would be narrow areas to move the forklift, he said, if you have to do it, just Austin Powers it. And he told me that these are younger people. They were like, what's Austin Powers? And they didn't know. He was like, what? And like, these kids are so young, they don't know what Austin Powers is. And I thought Austin Powers was a young person's not a young
yeah.
person's, but like, but then again, it did come out in like, what's the copyright on this DVD?
Like the early 2000s.
Yeah, the copyright date on the DVD is 90. Oh wow, okay. So the first movie was 97. 1997 was the first film.
Wow.
And then 2002, 99 was the second, and 2002 for the third on the copyrights. So, I mean,
the year that I graduated from high school.
Okay, so yeah, it would be young person's movies because
Right.
like, yeah, graduating when the movie came out, being like 17, 18, like in that realm, that was a teen.
You don't have to try to make me feel better, Steven.
No, I mean, I'm just saying I was right. I felt bad because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you're not that young. But then I was like, if you're graduating high school when it came out, then I was right.
Yeah. But I think the point that you're making though is that for you, pop culture stuff and movies and that kind of thing, that's like part of your therapy for you.
Yeah, and this
right?
this podcast literally exists because of the fact that I was severely depressed.
Yeah.
My father passed away in December in 1999. Wow. 2019. And I did the first very short, like 18-minute kind of therapeutic rant that I recorded on a sound software and just posted it audio. That was January, I want to say 21st or 17th, something like that. So it was like less than a month, right around a month or so after that. So I was like, my initial, what is this? And the show was going to originally just be like a journey of like, well, today I had to talk to the courthouse about this. And I realized that process was only going to take like a few weeks. And after that, like a month tops. And I didn't do them every single week. I did one. And then like a few days later, I did another one. And then like 3 weeks, I did another one. Very inconsistent. But after like 3 shows, I was done telling the story. I was like, well, this can't. Like, that's done. Okay, well, what do I do now? So I thought, well, let's just keep talking about stuff. And eventually it just became like, well, this is what I love, because those were the things I was doing to, cope with all of that. And it's worked for me. I mean, there were days, obviously, that I would sit and just go, my life is great, and nothing would help, but you get through that. And then, of course, when I got this new job, which I'm not a fan of, but this isn't a ranting about what we hate podcast, really. Used to love the job. Now I don't so much, but whatever. I got the insurance, got the medication that kind of helped level things out a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not a magic pill, to like cure everything, but it does definitely help. And that's good, because I'm like, although I'm mad at the pharmacy because the last time I bought the medicine is relatively cheap. It was like $12 or something. This time it was like 28. I was like, 28? Wow. That's not that much money, but the amount of increase, it doubled almost. And I'm just like, why?
We've actually looked up, I think we used like GoodRx or that actually works.
There was something on my account in the pharmacy, like some kind of like prescription card thing, and they said there were some weird new changes with that service to where like it made things more expensive. I was like, how? My guess is cost went up, so they're like, well, we're getting our money back. You know what I mean? It's one of those things.
It always gets passed on to the consumer.
Exactly. I mean, again, $20-something is not that much money for like a month's supply of anything, but it's like, man, why? Like, why?
You just feel like you're being nickeled and dimed to death.
Yeah, because it's stuff people need. They depend on this stuff, and it's I can't complain. I am complaining, but I don't want to complain too much, because there's people out there getting insulin or whatever that's like $200-$300 like bottles or however much, and they should be no more than like $20.
Yeah, I'm really thankful that I'm on metformin for my diabetes. And also Jardiance for my diabetes. And thankfully, the cost of those isn't too bad.
My mom, I believe, is on one or both of those. I recognize those names, and she's talked to me about it. Her levels have been pretty normal lately, so it wasn't severe, but it was needed to be in check. And she seems to be doing okay but she has some kind of insurance plan where she doesn't really have to pay much or anything at all for her medications, which is nice for her. It's less worry on me, because I'm like, oh, even though I can't do anything, it's still you worry. It's your parents, like you worry,
Yeah.
no matter what. Yeah, what a sad show.
I don't think that. I mean, I feel like, we
Lego.
typically Lego. There we go. That always helps. No, I think generally we're a pretty optimistic, positive podcast. But I think there's been a lot of things that have gone on that we still need to talk about.
Yeah.
Jordan Elsass is leaving because of mental illness, and I think that we both are sort of dealing with that. I typically have always considered myself someone who is pretty buttoned up and in control, or at least I think that I am. And I had probably one of the worst anxiety attacks of my life. And if you're not used to it, you don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, it can be tough.
It really can be. And just like Jordan, it really kind of forced me to reevaluate some priorities too. And that's really turned a lot of things, upside down in my life right now. So I can totally relate. Um, and you can love something. You can love something and still kind of realize that it's not healthy for you in the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I went through.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm just. It is tough. I'm just thinking about all the times like I've gone through like their extreme situations, and it's just like, man.
Yeah. I've been really fortunate that, I've got a really awesome support system. My family has been great, and I'm really thankful for that. If I didn't have them supporting me through this, I think it would be a different kind of situation.
Yeah, I mean that was part of my struggle. I mean, I had people, but I mean, the thing with my dad, that was probably the worst.
Yeah.
And I don't even know. Like, I'm sure I've had anxiety attacks and not even realized it because I never was told like this is what it's going to be like. And then when they do come on, like it's not going to be the same experience for everybody anyway.
No.
So some people hyperventilate, some people get physically ill, some people. I listened to Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, who played Lex Luthor on Smallville, and he had Stephen Amell on a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, something like that, probably 2 years ago. And in the middle of recording, Stephen Amell had a very bad anxiety attack. He
really
had to leave. Yeah.
Wow.
And he said like because they were gonna drop they weren't gonna air it. He's like, no, air it, do it. And then he came back and again later he returned to kind of like talk about it, and it was just a general anxiety like built up, and he got like really hot. He got like nauseated, dizzy, and he had to go.
Yeah.
See, some people get physically sick like that, and some people just get really anxious. Some people get like fidgety, like and some people are just silent, and it's all internal, and they just don't express it. So it's when I hear anxiety attack, I think like paper bag, breathing in and out, and like that kind of thing. And one of the most extreme, like almost seizure-like experiences, but it's not always extreme like that. And so that it goes like I said that because it's like some people don't know that's what they're going through until years later.
Yeah.
Which is why it's kind of like a dangerous situation, but not dangerous, but it's one of those like sneak attack ninja things where it's like you don't really know what's happening. It's like a silent emotional killer, I guess. But yeah, this is a fun episode.
I know.
Happy. So it's nice. It's nice to talk about real things.
No, I mean, I think that I think you're right. It's real. It is present. And as much as I'd love to lie and say that everything is fantastic and honky dory, it's not. I mean, and I will say that I'm in a better place right now than I was, 2 weeks ago.
Right. It's always tough in the beginning, but it does. Yeah. And sometimes it lingers. Sometimes people have a harder time learning to manage and kind of adjust.
I will say that what's been helpful for me, number one, has been, again, talking to my support system. I've also gone and reached out for help, so I went and met with somebody that I trusted who, is licensed to go and provide counseling, and so that was helpful too. If just to have somebody listen and just letting you know that they care and talking about some options. So,
right. I've not done the counseling thing yet. It's something I want to do. I just haven't really done it yet. But I do stuff like this podcast and
right.
Video games and talking to people. And I play video games and get frustrated and addicted and like dead set on beating something.
Right.
Because I sit and think to myself, why am I so engaged in this activity that's irritating me more than what the anxiety was irritating? But it's like channeling it into one thing. And so while I'm more frustrated with this than I was with the other thing, at least it's not the other thing that I'm thinking about.
Right. It's a good distraction, right?
Yeah. And even though I'm still frustrated, it's a distraction.
Right.
And not to harshly change the subject, but I wanted to let everybody know, and we'll share it here. We are live on Twitter, which I said that in the beginning, but it's confirmed that we're
live on Twitter.
Delayed. Yeah. So if you are following us on Twitter, or if you're not and you want to keep everything on Twitter, you can go. I don't know how long this was an option, but I saw it today when I was creating the show, and I was like, what, Twitter? The downside, there's one downside to that, which isn't major, but we can only stream 3 platforms at a time, and that includes both Facebooks. So that 4th one was like, you can't do that. If we pay the higher membership rate, where we could have like unlimited this or that, we can have unlimited streaming platforms. But all I did was we'll no longer be broadcasting directly to the Facebook page. We're still doing the Facebook group because that's where we're more active and that's where more engagement happens than on the actual Facebook site or the page. So I thought, okay, well, we can get rid of the Facebook page because why have 2 Facebooks when you have Twitter? It's like, do we keep both Facebooks or do we have Twitter? It's like, I would rather be on Twitter live than didn't both. And this is something we wanted to do for at least a year. We're like, oh, let's go live on Twitter. Let's go live on Twitter.
This is great.
And so it's an option now. So that was just a test to see if it was working, and it is.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Follow us right now. And now we will watch me build this Lamborghini. No, that would take like 3 hours.
It would take a long time. Maybe you should do like a time lapse. That would be kind of cool.
I really want to. The other day, I wish I would have thought about it because it's in another room. There was a Lego Aston Martin from James Bond, and it actually has a Bond figure in it. And I'm just like, oh, that's awesome. I saw that and this at the same time. And I was like, I don't need that. And then I left the Walmart and then drove down the road. I was like, I should have bought one of them. And then I went back the next day or 2 later, and I didn't see the Lamborghini because I realized like the next day that this was my favorite, the Lamborghini, because it's just, I've never had a Lamborghini at Lego. And I'm really curious to see if the doors open like up instead of just like not at all.
That would be sweet.
They may not open at all. They may just be fixed. Which, if that's the case, fine. It's cool. It still looks nice. The Aston Martin took me 2 or 3 hours to build. I did get the Friends. Oh, I forgot about that too. It's in another room. The Friends Lego set from like the actual coffee shop that they go to.
Okay.
It's a Lego set of that, and it's got all the main cast and the guy. I don't remember his name, but the white-haired guy that worked at the coffee place. There's a figure of him in that too. And that was a little bit more expensive, and that's the thing too. Some people, when they get depressed, like I don't want to generalize and say like women do this, but there's a lot of men that do it too. I was gonna say buy shoes, but like some guys do that. They collect sneakers, whatever. People do that, or drugs or alcohol. I go crazy buying toys sometimes when I get depressed, and I'm just like, I should not have bought these things because I need money so I can keep my internet on or whatever, or
right.
Lights.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's food. I love to eat, and if I can have a good meal, that whole comfort food thing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I like to eat, but at the same time, I'm so used to that. I get stuck in patterns. I'm so used to eating the same easy thing. In 2020, I think I ate nothing but Hot Pockets.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not even exaggerating. I literally think I would buy 5 or 6 boxes of the two single Hot Pockets in one box. I'd buy like 5 or 6 of those every couple of days, and then eat like 2 or 3 boxes of those throughout the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then at least a good solid 6 months of that. And occasionally I would throw like, well, let me buy a bag of like pre-made salad to feel better about myself or something. But yeah, I don't know. There's so much on TV and streaming and stuff right now that I'm really hating the fact that I'm kind of down financially because I want to resubscribe to everything. The only thing I'm on right now, like it's going to be drugs or something. I'm on the Hulu. Hulu and Peacock are the two main ones because they're so cheap. Peacock is $5 a month. And a Hulu, I got a deal almost a year ago for 99 cents a month. For a year, so I still have a couple of months left on that. I do have Paramount right now because I signed up for it to watch Beavis and Butthead. They have a new Beavis and Butthead film and a new Beavis and Butthead series. And I'm excited because the new episode, oh, that's Thursday. Dang it. I was like, tomorrow is the new episode of Beavis and Butthead, but they come on Thursdays. Tomorrow's Tuesday, not Thursday. Fire! But yeah, I got that a while back, 2-3 weeks ago to get that, and then I was like, cancel. And then Paramount says, oh, well, please don't go. We'll give you half off. So it's like $5 a month right now. So
Okay.
I'm like, okay, I'll keep it for now.
It's worth it for $5.
I think that's only for 2 or 3 months, and then it goes back. But plus, Beavis and Butthead. I didn't know when the series would start. I knew the movie came out not too long ago, like maybe a month ago, or maybe less. And I knew I had to watch that movie because the last time we saw a Beavis and Butthead movie was like 1996 or 97, something like that. So I had to watch it. And then I found out, oh, the series is going to start like just a couple weeks after that. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm enjoying the show. It's the same format as it used to be in the 90s. Is it
the original creators?
Yeah. Well, apparently the Beavis and Butthead has kind of changed hands a little bit. Like I know Mike Judge created it. Who, if you don't know who Mike Judge is, he's the guy that did Beavis and Butthead. Duh.
Yeah.
But he also did other things like the spinoff, which I never watched, of Daria, was on MTV for a while back in the day, and then he did King of the Hill, of course, and he was involved in a lot of other stuff too. And he's always done the main voices for most of these shows. He did the voice of Daria. No. He did do the voice of Beavis and Butthead and several voices on King of the Hill. My favorite is, King of the Hill's Hank Hill. I've been watching King of the Hill a lot on Hulu lately. But yeah, so he created it and then sold it to MTV, I guess, or Viacom, the parent company of MTV. And so in the day you saw it, I'm 90 years old. Back then in the 90s, you saw it says MTV's Beavis and Butthead. And Mike Judge did for a long time. He didn't own it at all. I watched him on the Howard Stern show, like on a YouTube clip from like early 2000s, or maybe sooner, like right around the time the movie came out, Beavis and Butthead. And he told the story of like he doesn't get anything off of it. The only thing he gets is what he puts into it, like his work as a voice actor or a producer credit or whatever. But he had no ownership over it because he sold it off. And at some point that changed. Now he said in a more recent interview that he owned about half of the company, the property, kind of shares it with, I guess, Viacom or whoever is behind all of that now. So now the show is actually technically called Mike Judge's Beavis and Butthead, and it airs on Paramount Plus. So, and it's pretty much the same format. The first series, of course, if anybody watched it, they watched music videos in between. They would have 3 main parts of the show, I think, that were like 5 minutes or 6 minutes or whatever they were, or maybe 2 different episode pieces. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3, but they'd have like 2 main things, and then they'd have the show, the intro, then a little skit, then a commercial, then a music video, and then and they would break it up to stretch for 30 minutes. They do that now, but with the reboot, but they revamped it in like 2011, I think. Didn't last very long at all, like 1 season. And that one, they were watching clips of like Jersey Shore and stuff, because the rights to play videos were far too expensive. They're like, we can't afford that. It would be
Right.
$1 million show to just get these songs. It was easier back in the day because they were on MTV, and like it was easy. Like MTV owned the rights to the music already, and so when they came back out with it, I think it was like Comedy Central or something when they came back, and now they're on Paramount, and they get away with showing some music videos because what they do is they watch TikTok. Beavis and Butthead sit on their couch and watch TikTok. They do have like a flat screen TV now. They don't have the same busted tube TV. So they're watching TikTok, and some of them are hilarious because like you'll see like a teenage girl screaming, and Beavis is like, no, shut up, or whatever. And Butthead's like, shut up, Beavis. And then sometimes they'll watch music videos because there'll be music videos on TikTok. So they can get away with using them, I guess, somehow, like some kind of loophole. They don't play the full song, but it's enough to like, this song sucks. I don't know, Butthead, it's kind of good. What? Shut up. I don't know. It's good. It's a funny show. It's nostalgia. It's one of those things that I go back to because I'm like, it's new, yes. And they're still like 16 and they haven't scored, sadly. Maybe one day. I don't know.
Maybe. There's somebody out there for everybody. I think it's amazing. It's one of those shows that that really came out when I was like in maybe my 8th grade year and definitely in high school. In fact, I swear that I went to school with Beavis and Butthead. There were two guys who looked like they were doing a Beavis and Butthead cosplay, and even the way that they talked was like that too. So, and everybody was like doing the voice, like burn her hair.
Wow.
Thank you, hon. Thank you.
So like you're really old and stuff.
Right. You're only as old as you feel.
Do you have a tool set I can use? I just gotta like do something. Beavis is one of my favorite impressions to do. I've been doing it since I was a kid. Of course, when I was a kid, it was like, hey, I'm Beavis. Didn't sound anything like him. But as I got older, I was like, yeah, I can do this shit. I can do the impression a little bit better.
Yeah.
And it's really in the throat, so it kind of hurts to do it sometimes. If you do it too long, it's like, oh man. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not gonna keep going. I was gonna start doing more impressions like no.
Well, so if we're talking about plugging shows that we're watching, She-Hulk. I know that I talked to you about that one.
Yeah.
And without going too far into spoilers, I posted a couple of things about She-Hulk. You know, prior to it coming out, they had leaked some of the pictures of the CGI of She-Hulk, and there had been a lot of people who had, without even watching it, they had already decided they hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that is. It's become sort of like a pastime that before a show comes out, people already decide that they hate it without really having any information about it. However, I went and watched She-Hulk with my wife when it dropped on Wednesday, and it was really, really good. I really liked it. There's a lot of fourth wall breaking, so if you like Deadpool and how he like turns and speaks directly to the camera and has a conversation with the people that are watching, there's a couple of moments where that happens. Tatiana Maslany.
Awesome.
Yeah, Tatiana Maslany is the actress who plays She-Hulk. She plays Jen. She's a pretty established actress. She's been around, really, really good with the character. And again, I'm going to give my shameless plug, but I think the tie-in for us is, that it does deal with mental illness. We know that Bruce Banner has been spending the last 15 years trying to deal with his own anger issues, right? Yeah. I mean, he's hidden himself away from the world, and afraid that he's going to, turn into world breaker Hulk and kill people and destroy everything. We've seen movies where that's happened, and now his cousin Jen becomes a Hulk as well, and he's worried for her because she has no idea just how dangerous she could be. And what really kind of comes out is the fact that that her transformation into the Hulk is totally different than the way that Bruce is. In fact, she can transform back and forth from Hulk to herself, whatever she wants to, without losing control.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I mean, I knew of the character, but I was never that familiar with the character because I knew She-Hulk existed, and that was pretty much it. I knew it was a girl Hulk. But other than that, I didn't really know like the origin of the character, like how the story played out in the comics originally. Apparently, she was a lawyer in the comics, because I don't know if Disney would just do that out of nowhere. They just create some fake backstory. I know they take their own liberties, but I mean,
they do. I mean,
generally they try to stay to the core.
Right. Her being a lawyer is a big part of the story. In fact, I think the name of the show is literally She-Hulk Attorney at Law.
Yeah.
So, her being a lawyer and is a big part of who she is. Her origin story is really similar. I think in the original comic book story, there's an accident, and Bruce has to, in order to save her life, he has to give her a blood transfusion.
Okay.
And via the blood transfusion, that's what ends up turning her into She-Hulk. They kind of messed around with that a little bit in the Disney Plus series. They're on a trip together, and there's a car accident. And in the course of the car accident, she ends up bleeding from a wound, and Bruce was in his human form, and he gets himself cut, and so some of his blood ends up coming in contact with hers, and that leads to her transformation.
Okay, so I like that. I mean, I know a lot of people out there, I haven't seen She-Hulk at all, but a lot of people out there are probably like, I'm pissed off, that's not how it happened. But it's like they touch on it without fully going 100%, because those same people, I'd almost could guarantee that if they did, I read maybe one of our group posts, someone said like they need to make a movie or a series that's word for word 100% same thing exactly as the comics. I'm like,
but I've never in a million years seen a comic book movie that is word for word exactly the same.
The only thing I've seen, right, and the only thing that has come close to that isn't even a comic book adaptation. It is a remake of Psycho. The first Psycho film was shot for shot remade in color, but shot for shot, word for word, cinematography identical. Everything's the same, with Vince Vaughn instead of what's the guy's name that played Norman Bates in the original? I can't remember his name right off, but shot for shot, like exactly the same. Which was interesting because I had a VHS copy of that film, of the Vince Vaughn one, because I knew of Psycho, because I think we talked about Psycho and Alfred Hitchcock and all this different type of stuff. And I saw the VHS movie. This is right on the cusp of DVD, I think. And I saw it in like a drugstore, and I was like, oh, $10, whatever it was at the time. And I got it, and I was like, I heard of this movie. It's an old movie. I want to watch it. And I saw Vince Vaughn. I'm like, that's the guy that was in that funny movie. This isn't what is this movie? But it was interesting, but it also seems very pointless.
Yeah.
Because I still love the movie, but it's the exact same movie. And also, like the original Norman Bates, much better than Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn didn't do a terrible job, but he did exactly the same thing. He just didn't. I guess it was because I'd seen pictures and clips of the original, and it was off-putting, but it was still good. So if Marvel and Disney or DC, even Warner Brothers, no matter who it was, if they did a shot-for-shot identical story of maybe not shot-for-shot since it was page and then screen, but identical story, same dialogue, same exact story, everybody would be really mad about that. Like the people complaining now would be like, that's too close. Have an original idea. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it's true. The fact is that there are some people who, no matter what you do, they're not going to like it. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's true. I thought they did a good job with Jen's origin story as She-Hulk. And it
sounds cool.
You know? Yeah. One of the one of the top issues though that comes up in the show that again I think relates here is the fact that Jen's transformation into She-Hulk, she has complete control over herself. Where Bruce has taken almost decades in order to control himself, and even then, he's like holding on by a thin wire. Jen doesn't have that issue. Bruce has like multiple personalities, right? That he's been had
Yeah.
to deal with. Jen doesn't have multiple personalities, and Bruce kind of thought that those personalities would come simply because she had been exposed to gamma radiation in his blood.
And so really,
yeah.
So it's more of a story of like not the She-Hulk story overall, but Bruce's character, he's always really only had one personality. He just didn't realize it and couldn't control it. So that's why it splits off into two. Because I mean, I need to watch it. I really do, because you mentioned human form. And last we saw him in Endgame, he wasn't human once in that whole movie, right? He was the Professor Hulk the entire time.
Right.
So it's interesting. I'm like, is he getting more of a control on that's?
Well,
I have to
he
check
was
that
wearing
out.
In the show, he was wearing a device on his arm
Okay.
that allowed him to stay in his human form.
That's still cool though, because a lot of people, I think a lot of the hate for the show comes from people who just do not like this Professor Hulk.
Right.
Which is what they call him in the comics, I guess, which this is a version of him. I know people that have complained about it. Like, it's not the worst thing, but people just don't like Mark Ruffalo. I love the guy. I think he's great.
What's hilarious for me is that I think that Mark Ruffalo is great. And when I compare him to what we had seen with Eric Bana, who is terrible, and what we had seen with Edward Norton, who was at least better than Bana.
He was okay.
I like Mark Ruffalo, though
I do.
He is kind of getting a little bit older, and so But I really like him. Probably the issue right now, after episode 1, has been about this idea about control, right? Bruce was abused by his father growing up, and he never really dealt with it. And so he becomes the Hulk, and now his anger and rage, he's tapping into all of that abuse that he suffered as a child. Jen didn't have that problem. And so for her, I think that's a lot of it. But she talks about how that women, there are things that women have to deal with every day. And, that was something that I had posted in our group specifically.
Yeah. I was actually, if you notice my screen going darker than lighter, because I'm looking, I was looking for that post, and oh wow, that's still showing the Twitter. Let me I was gonna share it, but
I definitely feel like that's one of those
here it
that's
is.
one of those. Okay.
So yeah, like you were just mentioning this, and I was like, "Hey, I saw that somewhere," and then you mentioned it, your post.
Right.
Like, I heard it from you. She says, "I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time when I'm catcalled in the streets. When I'm incompetent, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day, because if I didn't, I would get called emotional or difficult, or might just get murdered. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you." And I read that, and that's the only thing I really know from the story of the show. I know that upset a lot of people, like feminism, and it's not even about that. It's like, just, I've never seen the show, but just based on reading that alone, I get it. You know, I get it.
So it is interesting that exclusively whenever I see women who read those words, there's a lot of head nodding and agreement that yes, finally somebody said it. And then you get guys who don't want to admit that women have to deal with controlling their emotions like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or they think that it's really not a big deal, right? They get caught up on that whole catcalling thing, and they want to somehow lessen it, that it's really not a big deal.
Yeah.
But that's her argument. That's part of hers, why she's saying that, hey, we're different people. We deal with stress differently. And yes, in my life, I've had to learn how to control myself, because there are different expectations in society, for women than there are for men. Men are able to go and blow up and have a moment, and society brushes it off. When a woman is has a moment and blows up, they call her a bitch.
That, where it's like, oh, it's your time, huh?
Yeah.
It's like,
my wife and I were talking about this tonight before we came on, and she specifically said, make sure you talk about She-Hulk.
Is she holding cue cards, making you read them? No, that was a joke. I don't mean that in any negative way. I just wanted to create a laugh.
No, I will say, though, that when my wife gets excited about something, and when she says, hey, I hope you talk about this on the show, I do listen to her, right?
I mean, it's good, yeah.
And she's one of the fans of our podcast. But I do think it's one of those topics that that needs to be discussed, and some people don't want to have that conversation. So anyway,
I love how this show is like formed, because 2 hours ago we had no clue what we're going to talk about, and it just kind of like you messaged me like maybe 20-30 minutes before we went on, talking about like, Jordan Elsass, can we play this? I'm like, that's a good idea. I didn't even know they were posted until you mentioned it. And then that led into other things. It's like this big theme. And that's what I love about this show, is even if there's only 1 or 2 people watching, it doesn't matter. I'm really doing it more for my own enjoyment. And sometimes I feel like, oh, I can't handle it today. And sometimes it's just what I need. And I don't know. I just love the fact that the first episode I think we did live like this, I was reading off of a talk about this. It was like almost a script. And now I'm just like, let's just go and talk. And we literally had every topic be a theme.
I think what's great is that we've sort of, I think after doing this for a couple of years, I think we've learned to play off each other and bring things up. I think one last person that we need to talk about
is me. No.
Yes, it's you. It is absolutely you. No, it's Ezra Miller.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They did announce, I believe, I don't know if it's rumored or confirmed, but from what I've read, he will not be part of any future DC property films. So that leads me to think, okay, they're not going to cancel The Flash, even though it's reported that they're considering it. They scrapped Batgirl. They scrapped the Gotham Knights series. They scrapped all this stuff. And I'm just like, are they just going to eliminate DC and sell it to someone? Like, what if Disney bought DC? But yeah, it does seem like they have like some grudge against the DC stuff, which there's a lot of controversy surrounding a lot of the stuff.
There really is.
Ezra Miller and The Flash, I feel kind of bad, because initially when we saw the first report of him choking this girl to death, she was smiling and giggling as he softly put her to the floor. Now I'm like, oh, that's just a thing. But more and more and more and more. And now it's come out that Ezra has been seeking mental help. So it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. My actions have been ridiculous. I need help. Like, that's a good thing. But does that erase anything? Does that put him in like this position where like, oh, well, okay, well, you're getting help, so we forgive you. Come back to Flash 2. I don't think so.
I think what we've seen is, number one, I'm glad that he apologized.
Yeah.
However, putting a gun to somebody's forehead like that, I'm sure that he's getting a lot of pressure from his bosses and from his agents and everything. Make a public apology. You're making us look bad.
Oh yeah.
And that was their attempt to kind of spin it. Number one, I don't think anybody's necessarily believing it.
I don't know. It does seem kind of like, okay, at what point did you decide to apologize? Like, I feel like I should apologize because I didn't think he was choking a girl because it didn't look like that was a real thing.
Here's my
But-
deal. Here's my deal. And I know we've talked about this on the podcast before. If that were one solitary instance of him acting out and abusing his celebrity status, we could say that, you know what, it's taken out of context.
Right.
It was a short video that somebody cropped it to make it look bad. I think we could make that argument, and I think that's what we did at first was, I think this is a joke. However, when you take all of it into consideration, right, that he's been involved in multiple altercations, running off with people, and now theft and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, felony theft too.
I know. You put all of that together, and
something's going on.
Yeah, he's a real mess.
But then again, is it his fault? I mean, it is, but at the same time, is it like his mental state, or is he just an asshole? You know what I mean? Like, so in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to be too harsh, but at the same time, like, even if I were to kind of have a breakdown and like steal a pony and throw it in the river or whatever, I would, even though I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done, like, my mind controlled me. My mind controlled me. Wow, that sounded normal, but you know what I mean? That, like,
right.
You still should pay consequence for your actions.
Right. I mean, and I think that's really what we can have sympathy and say, man, I totally can relate about having mental issues and struggles and stress, and I hope that you get help, and thank you for the apology.
Yeah.
And at the same time, realize that your actions have consequences, and maybe your apology is going to be a step in you finally getting healing, but it's not going to take away the fact that you might end up dealing with the repercussions of what you've done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel so, like, I don't even know how to feel. I'm like, and this, like, it's one of those angel and devil moments where it's like, do I go and watch The Flash? Like, or do I not watch it at all? Because I have a feeling that movie's still going to do very well because it's the Michael Keaton. We got to do it for Keaton.
Right.
Because, I mean, some people had suggested, oh, get someone else and reshoot just a little bit. I think I got into some, like, online arguments, not like, I hate you, I'm going to kill your dog kind of arguments, but somebody said something like, oh, they could just do a quick reshoot where they bring in someone. I'm like, that you would literally have to film 80% of the film all over.
There were people who were trying to get Elliot Page.
Which I get. I think the only reason for that is because the resemblance to Ezra Miller.
Right.
Facial
and I don't
structure,
think that Elliot,
haircut.
Right. I don't think that Elliot Page was ever seriously considered to be recasting. That was simply fan theory. But no, I think partly is that I think that DC has put so much emphasis on this Flash storyline. I think they've got a lot of future projects they're planning on building off of with this.
It makes me wonder, though, because Batgirl was a continuation or a branch or a spinoff of sorts of The Flash. So that was supposed to take place after The Flash. And if that's canceled, it made me wonder, are they going to do that with this? Or are they just going to reshoot the entire movie? Because Batgirl was like a $90 million project that they were like, you know what? Tax write-off, whatever, they are get technical loopholes in this and that. And
I think there's multiple issues that are wrapped up in this. I think first of all, I think they still have a vision for what they want to do with their stories in the future coming, that are coming along. At the same time, whenever there are when companies get bought out, they always reshuffle the deck.
Oh, right? Yeah.
However, it's almost like they've just taken the CW and the DC universes and just, like, bombed the hell out of it.
Yeah, I mean CW especially. I mean, because it's like the entire. Just to think, 2 years ago we had a whole lineup of amazing comic book related TV shows. Now we have one.
Yeah.
And it just lost one of its, which has nothing to do with the DC situation.
So there's still Stargirl. Stargirl is still.
Well, that's true. That's true. I keep forgetting
present.
Stargirl because it's normally a summer series, but it hasn't started yet. So that makes me wonder when. I think they've announced it, but
yeah, they do have the next season coming out soon.
I think it's September.
And I will say it's a great show.
It is.
I think it's really, really good. But at one point I thought that we had a fully realized Justice League.
Yeah.
And the idea that in a relatively short amount of time, all of that would just completely vanish.
I feel like, which I don't feel like, I think it's pretty much a fact that CW DC TV 2 years ago was on top. Marvel TV, which not Netflix, but Disney Plus, their shows, they hadn't really started pushing all that. So in a way, like the last 2 years, it kind of flipped. That was so cheesy. I don't know why I did that. I was like, it flipped. But it really did, because in, say 2016 or so, I was like, DC TV is awesome. Marvel TV is terrible, because I didn't get into Daredevil yet. There weren't that many shows Marvel based, and they tried. It was like short run or whatever. But now they blew up.
Yeah, no comparison in my opinion.
I mean, it used to be different. I mean, it used to be season 2, 3 of Flash, and maybe not 3, but around season 2, season 1, when Arrow was on 2 or 3, and then Supergirl came out, like it was like on fire, like, and now it's been on fire for so long that it burned down.
Tomorrow,
first few years of that, Batwoman season 1, I loved.
Black Lightning, I think
Naomi. I mean, you gotta have one bad.
That show never went anywhere, but that was, for me, Naomi was an outlier, but the core shows, I mean, they were really onto something. And I think, whether they feel like it was just too much, it was too many plates to keep spinning, or what, I just feel like they've taken this tremendous step backwards.
I think they were pushed backwards and maybe off a cliff, because between COVID and the CW sale, if those two things don't happen, I think we'd still be watching, maybe not Arrow, but everything else. Legends suffered; they were dropping in ratings and stuff like that. But the show was still enjoyable to me. I mean, it was mostly filler with an occasional "oh wow." My last real favorite episode, and I'm not just saying this, was the one that Mark Guggenheim directed, which was one of the last episodes of the previous season, not their final season, I think. I forget the name of what was the title of the episode? The one where we're stuck on TV, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a playoff of a Friends title, too, because the Friends episodes were always the one where and that was such a good episode, because that's why one of the reasons I like WandaVision so much, because it was sort of the same way. They were in this parody of this style of show. One of my favorite WandaVision episodes was the Malcolm in the Middle episode.
Yeah.
That was just amazing. I was like, really? God, this is awesome. And that's what I liked about that episode of Legends.
Yeah.
Because Mark directed it, and I was like, ooh, and it was actually good. I didn't like it just because his name was on the director credit. It was genuinely one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, and I guess it's just sad when we realize that, things change, and sometimes not always for the better, and that's the unfortunate part. But again, I feel like, superhero shows and movies, if when they're done well, they sell. I just don't understand why they would make that decision to not do them.
I have a feeling that they might be, I don't know who owns CW now. I forget the name of the company, but Warner Brothers, they don't necessarily have to be tied into CW, because now Warner Brothers has no association really as far as ownership of the CW. The CW was actually two networks merged. It was a combination, well, not merged, but like branched off. It's like Warner Brothers. Well, it wasn't really a channel, I guess. The WB is what the channel was,
Right.
which was just the Warner Brothers. And then that was a combination of Warner Brothers and CBS. They merged, and like UPN, I think was one. All these networks kind of merged together to make the CW. But now Warner Brothers has sold off the CW, and I don't know if CBS still owns any part of it or not. I don't know why I'm pointing. Not like CBS is that way. I don't know if they own part of it anymore. I know it was like a partnership between CW and CBS or whatever, Warner Brothers, CBS. But it makes me wonder, could DC leave CW and just go to like HBO? That's what they should do anyway, I think. Like Titans, like shows like that. They're so much better. Not because they could swear or like show blood or like any of this kind of stuff, but because of those things, exactly. But the stories are better too. They're more fleshed out. They're more cinematic. They're just good. And I just don't know.
No, if you look at what they've been doing with Doom Patrol and Titans, that freedom to kind of push the limits a little bit, I think, and with HBO comes, the increased budgets too.
So. Yeah, and I also think because I guess Warner Brothers and HBO are connected as far. I don't know if it's a distribution deal or if like Warner Brothers owns HBO or.
Well, like I can watch both Superman and Lois and Stargirl on HBO Max.
Right, but you never could do that with. They might have had old episodes of Flash still. I don't know, or Legends or whatever. I feel like they might be working towards, like Warner Brothers might be working towards a reboot of everything, of the CW, not the CW, but like the Arrowverse stuff and the actual extended universe, the film universe. All of that seems to be kind of maybe being reshaped. It would be really nice if they could just merge it all into one thing, like Marvel and Disney are doing, because that's where they figured it out. They did all these movies all the way back to 2008 with the first Iron Man. You think about that. Like, that's that long ago. Iron Man was 2000. Like, really? I was barely out of high school. Like 3 years or 4 years out of high school.
I will say that really has been the brilliance of the MCU, has been the fact that there has been this consistent vision.
Yeah.
Really all the way along, right
Kevin
up
Feige.
to right up to Endgame, and then here we are in phase 4, and while there may have been a couple of misses along the way,
Hawkeye. No, I'm just kidding. I loved Hawkeye. It really was good.
Yeah, I think they've done a really great job. And I feel like it would be a really smart decision for, maybe the DC universe, that the executives really need to lock themselves in a room and really think about how they're gonna save themselves from going belly up at this point.
It's just too inconsistent. Like they're because I liked The Batman. I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah.
It was 17 hours long, but I really liked it.
But there was
no glitter.
Yeah. No, I will be the first to say that I had made fun of Robert Pattinson's Batman.
Oh yeah,
because of his time on Twilight, and yet I think he proved himself, and proved all the haters wrong. Mm-hmm. But that movie is still disconnected completely from everything else, right?
Exactly.
It's not connected to the Justice League or to Flash, at least as far as we know.
Or even the Joker, the Walking Phoenix Joker series, which they're doing Joker 2 at some point, which okay, but like it's like Venom? Are they trying to be the next, like Sony is doing Venom 2, Venom 17, whatever, where he's a good guy, and like I've heard rumors that like Tom Hardy's Venom will somehow interact with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and the symbiote will get on him, and then Eddie Brock shows up, and then Tom Hardy leaves, and then it's like I don't know, but I don't know why I went on this weird tangent of that, but I think that's what they need because like Kevin Feige has had this. I mean, it's not just him; it's like a lot of people, and their explanation of time travel is a lie. So don't listen to that part of the Marvel MCU stuff. It's a lie.
Okay, I mean, we knew they had to have a weak spot, right?
Yeah, it's not going to be perfect, but the way they've done that is amazing. So, and Warner Brothers has that connection already with HBO Max. Like they've got this in house. Like, okay, here's this perfect network we can put this stuff on, and that's what Marvel's doing. They're not doing shows that have 35 seasons. You know, like Stranger Things is one of those shows that's like 5 is it. So it's like a short run. It took several years to get to it, but I remember having friends that said Stranger Things shouldn't have went past season 1. Like a lot of people prefer very short run series because they're like a movie but longer, and that's what Marvel's kind of done. There's there's continuations and tie-ins and all that kind of stuff.
They've done. I feel like what they've done has been really, really smart. That they've taken these stories and instead of doing a movie, they've broken it into episodes so they could kind of flesh them out more.
Yeah.
And that way, when I know that when the Marvels come out, we'll already be acquainted with Miss Marvel as well as with Carol Danvers.
And they're gonna do Wonder Man.
Yeah. So again, I'm really excited about all of these projects that are coming along.
Yeah, and that's what I like about the Disney Plus and Marvel stuff is because you don't see the shows have 2, 3, 4, 5, however many seasons. Like there's a couple of exceptions. I think Loki's going to get a second season maybe at one point, and then but that's different. That's not like it's not going to run for 8 or 9 years, and that's what I like about the Marvel stuff. Like Falcon and Winter Soldier was good. Wasn't the best of all of them, but it was good. And now they're going to have the next Captain America film, which is going to be Sam as Captain America and all this stuff, which is great. I don't know why I always have to do this when I say something that's exciting. Like I'm a monkey. It's like it's true. We evolve because I'm like going like this because I'm excited about something. I don't know. And then I think DC could do the same exact thing with HBO. They could take, here's a Flash series that ties into this, and it just boom, there you go. Or any random obscure, like let's see a Hawkman series, from Justice Society. Let's see. I would love to see a Dr. Fate series. Oh my gosh, how cool would that be? Just stuff like that. Like that's what they need to do.
There's so much stuff, and I think, considering the Black Adam movie that's coming out, I believe Dr. Fate has a role in that movie.
Yeah, I've heard that, which is exciting. I forget who was supposed to be playing Dr. Fate though. It was somebody.
Isn't it Pierce Brosnan?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, that's really interesting. I wonder if they're gonna do like that effect over his voice. I don't know. I'm Fate, Dr. Fate. I don't know.
I mean, again, when you have Pierce Brosnan, you don't cover up his voice.
Yeah, he was. Well, I don't know. Dr. Fate always had that like. The only live action Dr. Fate we had was in Smallville, actually, which was really well done. I think.
Yeah.
Like, the suit was amazing. They had this like, not echo effect, but this like. I don't know how to describe it other than kind of echoey, because it was like the force of the helmet was like the god of something, sort of like Moon Knight in a sense, where the god was taking over the body and controlling him, and it drove the guy. I forget the character's name that was under the suit, but either way, he had this like voice. You could hear his voice, but it was like that effect. But yeah, I think of Pierce Brosnan and I think of James Bond. Like GoldenEye was like the Bond movie for me, I think.
Yeah. So we're getting a Dr. Fate.
So that's going to be awesome. But I really think, and I've been hearing reports or rumors or whatever that they're actually looking at Greg Berlanti to be the Kevin Feige of the DC stuff.
Oh, really?
Which I don't know if that's actually something that they're doing or if it's just something that would be cool or if there's talks. But I just picture like, because Greg Berlanti is the one that's really responsible for all the CW stuff.
Right. I mean,
mean,
his name is all over it when we see
Yeah.
him, especially for the shows.
I mean, Arrow and Legends was Berlanti and Guggenheim. Like they are the two guys that were like, let's do these shows. But Greg Berlanti was all over. I mean, it started with Arrow, and then Legend, or Flash came after. Then Supergirl and Legends were on the same time. And Supergirl actually started on CW, not CW, but CBS. And it wasn't even. It was weird too because all these other shows were on CW, but here's this other show on CBS. Like, what? Why? And I guess they realized that. They're like, wait a minute, why isn't this on this network? And then they fixed it, I guess. But
yeah.
Then they had to go and ruin everything by saying Superman and Lois not on Earth Prime, which.
Well, I think their decision makes complete sense.
It makes sense.
I mean, again, basically the Arrowverse doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
Why would you tie Superman and Lois to a universe that doesn't exist anymore?
I think looking at it now with that perspective, it makes so much sense. But at the time when we first heard that in that finale, I'm like, ugh!
But it does feel like a wasted opportunity. I mean,
it does.
They went through all that work of putting everybody on the same Earth, on Earth Prime, and that was, in my mind, just a great chance for them to, this week we could have Diggle, next week we could have, somebody from Legends or somebody from Batwoman. Even if their shows are no longer going on, we could pull in those different actors and actresses and still get that feel. That would have been, again, really smart. But again, they don't listen to me.
I feel like, I guess the reason it upsets me a little bit is because it feels like it kind of negates Crisis as a whole. Like, not the whole thing, because then again, if you think about it, I had that thought initially. I was mad because I'm like, Crisis means nothing now. But that Clark was not a Paragon. So, I mean, it's not like they were like, and pulled the rug out, because he wasn't one of the main Paragons. So it makes sense. So that Clark was different. So the one we're seeing now probably would have been this. But why wasn't he picked instead? And that made me really mad because I thought Tom Welling Superman was going to be the Paragon. That was teased. That's their thing of like, no, just kidding.
Yeah, they love doing that.
And I love Tom. But they are coming out, and I think I've talked about this before. They are doing a Smallville animated series.
Really?
I don't know what it's going to air on. It could be HBO. It could be whatever. I know they're starting. I think they've gotten animations done on some of it. And it's going to be voiced by most of the original cast. I know that Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum, who are Clark Kent and Lex Luthor, are going to do those voices. They're going to have, I believe, John Glover, who plays Lionel Luthor, which is Lex's father. He's supposed to, I think they said he was going to come back and do that voice.
Okay, great.
Which is going to be interesting because it's got to be a multiversal thing because he dies in season, I want to say 6 or 7. Because Lex pushes him out of the building and he just falls to his death, which is insane. And in season 10, he comes back, but from a different Earth. And then Darkseid is involved, and then he gives his soul to Darkseid so that he can take he kills him, and the Earth 2 or whatever, Lionel Luthor, his heart is pulled out of his body by Darkseid and put into the new Lex. And so it was dark and crazy and awesome. And supposedly this animated series is supposed to pick up where Smallville left off.
Oh, wow.
So it is going to be in continuity with the show, but it worries me because they had what was called Smallville Season 11, a comic series, where it was a continuation from that on through what he does. And he teams up with Green Lantern, he meets Wonder Woman, all this stuff, all these other DC characters, Superman, all of it. He actually, he is Superman, never mind. He meets up with Superman. It's so good. He is Superman. But he meets up with the Green Lantern and gets a lantern ring. So Superman is the Green Lantern in that comic. And it's, I don't want all of that to be kind of like, no, that didn't happen. But it probably will. Which is fine, because I think Greg Berlanti and all those guys, when they did Crisis, they were like, the Smallville Season 11 comic, that's canon with this. This universe we're doing for Crisis, that happened in this. And I'm just like, because it kind of connected it all.
Right.
But we'll see, because they had their own crisis in that comic series in Smallville.
I mean, I think the point is that there's still a lot of good stuff out there coming.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm excited for the Smallville cartoon. I know it's a cartoon, and some diehard Smallville fans are going to be like, "Why don't you just film it and put it on TV? I hate cartoons." But I'm excited. I don't care that it's animated. I didn't care that it was a comic book form. I wanted to see it. But I'm more excited for the cartoon.
A lot of the cartoon versions are great.
It's the voices. I'm excited. If they did this show with completely different, say, what's that kid like? That nerdy looking kid, Michael Cera. If he did the voice of Clark Kent,
okay,
and like, I don't know, what's another really annoying voice? I don't know. Say Joe Rogan is Lex Luthor. I wouldn't want to watch that. It's not who they are. It's not. But the fact that it's these original people doing the voices and just like, I'm behind this.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And they've got the original Smallville creators involved as well. So that's amazing.
All right. Well, hey, I know we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
But hey, we covered a lot of stuff. Jordan Elsass, She-Hulk, Ezra Miller, all the canceled DC property stuff. We somehow made it through.
Yeah, it was fun. We should not really think about it more often, I think. But then there are times where there's stuff we really want to talk, like specific details. We have to talk about this.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely. Thanks for being flexible and just been open to some new things tonight.
Yeah, I like it. I like this. It kind of takes me back to when I started the show and the vibe of it. Not to say that talking about really great shows and stuff is bad, but it's nice to shake it up and like see what happens.
Yeah, I agree.
It's part of the fun of the live thing too. Because if this was pre-recorded, I'd be like, I don't like how I said that. Let me click out when I do this, and I don't know. I did it again, and yeah. Anyway, moving forward with the show, we're gonna try not to have these awkward closes where I talk about random things for 2 hours before we
I
end.
will believe that when I see it.
All right. Well, it's been a fun week, so we're gonna try to be back here next Sunday. Maybe by that point, I'll be able to watch She-Hulk. I'll try to see if I can get on Disney Plus again. If not, I'll watch it at some point. And I'll build this Lego, and next week you'll see it completed. So look forward to that. And that's going to be it for this week.
All right. Sounds good.
So have a good night, and everybody watching or that will watch, have a good night, day, morning, whatever you're having, have it, and it be good.
All right.
And that's where I stop talking. Have a good week, everybody.
All right. Adios.
See ya.